My name is Elena. I am 27 years old. I live in a big busy city. I have a small and clean apartment. I live there completely alone. I wake up every day at 6. I make coffee and get dressed fast. I take the train to work daily. I have done this for 3 years. My life is simple and organized. But simple does not mean happy. I know that very well now. I work at a big company. The company sells luxury real estate. Big houses and beautiful apartments. Rich people buy and sell there. I am not rich at all. I am just a junior assistant. I answer phones and send emails. I make coffee for important people. I organize files and book meetings. I smile even when I am tired. I work harder than everyone else. I arrive first and leave last. I thought hard work would be noticed. I was very wrong about that. My boss is a man named Ryan. Ryan is 32 years old. He is tall with sharp cold eyes. His suits are always perfectly pressed. His shoes are always perfectly clean. Ryan never smiles at me warmly. He only speaks to give orders. Do this, Elena, he says flatly. Fix this, Elena, he says coldly. You made an error, Elena, he says loudly. He never says well done, Elena. He never says thank you, Elena. He walks past my desk every morning. He does not look at me once. I am invisible to him completely. Just a small part of his machine. One Monday morning everything changed forever. I came to work feeling hopeful. I had finished a very big project. I worked on it for 2 weeks. I stayed late many nights. I skipped my lunch breaks for it. I gave that project everything I had. I put it carefully on Ryan's desk. I waited for him to read it. At 11 o'clock Ryan called me in. I walked into his big glass office. He was sitting behind his large desk. He did not ask me to sit. He was looking at some papers. He did not look up at me. Then he spoke in a flat voice. Elena, this project is not good enough. Your work has been disappointing lately. We need someone stronger in this role. I am letting you go today. Please clear your desk by noon. I stood completely still and silent. The words took time to reach me. Like cold water arriving very slowly. He was firing me. Ryan was actually firing me. After 3 years of hard work. After 3 years of early mornings. After 3 years of skipped lunches. After 3 years of staying late alone. He was letting me go like nothing. I looked at his face carefully. He was already looking at his phone. I was already forgotten to him. I said only 2 words to him. I said, "Okay, Ryan." Then I turned and walked out. I cleared my desk in 20 minutes. I put my small things in a box. A photo of my mother and me. A small plant I had grown slowly. A coffee mug with my name on it. I carried the box to the elevator. Nobody said goodbye to me properly. One girl waved from across the room. The security man held the door open. I walked out into the cold morning air. I sat on a bench outside and breathed. Then I called my best friend Sarah. Sarah answered on the second ring. I told her what Ryan had done. Sarah said many angry words about Ryan. She said he was a terrible person. She said I deserved so much better. Her angry words made me feel better. Then I cried a little on the bench. Then I stood up and walked home. I told myself a new chapter was starting. I did not believe myself completely yet. 3 months passed after that cold Monday. I found a new job quite quickly. I now work at a smaller company. The people there are kind and warm. My new manager actually says thank you. I am slowly rebuilding my confidence again. One Saturday evening Sarah called me excitedly. "Elena, come out tonight," she said loudly. "My cousin is having a birthday dinner. It will be fun and the food is amazing. Come and stop sitting home alone." I almost said no thank you, Sarah. I was comfortable in my pajamas already. But Sarah has a very persuasive voice. "Fine," I said and got up slowly. I wore a simple dark blue dress. I put on small gold earrings carefully. I looked in the mirror for a moment. "You look nice, Elena," I told myself quietly. The restaurant was warm and beautifully lit. Soft music played in the background gently. Long tables were full of happy people. Sarah waved at me from across the room. I walked over smiling and sat down. Sarah introduced me to many new people. Everyone was friendly and easy to talk to. The food arrived and everything smelled wonderful. I started to relax and enjoy myself. Then the door of the restaurant opened. A man walked in from the cold outside. He was tall with silver hair at his temples. He wore a simple dark jacket and smiled warmly. He looked around the room with kind eyes. Sarah leaned over and whispered to me excitedly. "That is my Uncle Thomas," she said quietly. "He is so lovely, you will like him." Thomas came to the table and greeted everyone. He had a big and genuine warm smile. He shook hands and hugged people comfortably. Then Sarah introduced us to each other. "Thomas, this is my best friend Elena." Thomas looked at me and smiled gently. He said it was very nice to meet me. I said it was nice to meet him too. He sat directly across the table from me. We started talking almost immediately together. He asked what I did for work. I told him about my new company. He listened with real interest and attention. He asked thoughtful questions about my work. Not polite questions but real curious questions. I felt seen for the first time in months. Thomas told me about his own work. He owned a medium-sized architecture firm. He designed buildings for 20 years now. He loved his work with obvious passion. His eyes lit up when he talked about it. I could have listened to him all evening. We talked through the entire dinner easily. We forgot about everyone else at the table. Sarah kept looking at us and smiling secretly. When dessert came, Thomas poured me water. Such a small and thoughtful and natural thing. But Daniel never did small things like that. My ex-boss Ryan never did that either. Thomas just quietly noticed and quietly helped. After dinner people started leaving slowly. Thomas asked if I would like to walk. "The night air is nice," he said warmly. I said yes without thinking twice at all. We walked along the river for a long time. The city lights reflected beautifully on the water. We talked about everything and nothing together. Our families, our dreams, our favorite books, our worst jobs and our funniest memories. I told him I had recently lost a job. I told him my boss had fired me unfairly. Thomas listened with his whole quiet attention. "That sounds like a very hard experience," he said. "But it sounds like you handled it with grace." Grace, I repeated the word softly to myself. Nobody had ever described me as graceful before. We stopped walking near a beautiful old bridge. Thomas looked at me in the soft city light. "You are a very interesting woman, Elena," he said. "I would very much like to see you again." My heart did something warm and unexpected. "I would like that too," I said honestly. We exchanged numbers under the old bridge. He walked me to my taxi like a gentleman. He said good night with a warm and real smile. I sat in the taxi and looked out the window. I was smiling the whole way home alone. Sarah called me before I even reached home. "Tell me everything right now," she demanded immediately. I laughed and told her we had talked all night. Sarah screamed a little with happiness for me. "He is such a good man, Elena," she said. "He deserves someone exactly like you," she added. Thomas and I met for coffee that Tuesday. We talked for 3 hours without noticing the time. He met me for dinner the following Friday. He brought me one white flower at the door. Not a big bunch but one single flower. Chosen with thought and given with intention. I put it in a small glass of water. I looked at it for 3 days after. Weeks passed and we saw each other often. He made me laugh with his quiet, dry humor. He remembered small things I mentioned once casually. He asked about my mother by her name. He asked about the book I was reading. He made me feel like I was worth remembering. I had forgotten what that feeling was like. 2 months after the restaurant, Sarah called me. She had very exciting news in her voice. "Elena, Thomas wants to introduce you to someone. He wants you to meet his son," she said. "His son is coming to visit next weekend." Thomas thought a family dinner would be nice. I felt a little nervous about meeting his son. What if his son did not like me? What if it was all too fast and strange? But Thomas was warm and steady and certain. "It will be fine," he told me gently. "Just be yourself and everything will be fine." I wore a soft cream-colored dress that evening. I arrived at Thomas's beautiful and warm home. Thomas opened the door and kissed my cheek. He took my coat and poured me wine. His home smelled like old books and warm wood. I felt completely comfortable there immediately always. Then Thomas said his son had just arrived. He called out from the hallway with warmth. "Come and meet Elena," he called out cheerfully. Footsteps came down the stairs one by one. I was looking down at my wine glass. I looked up when the footsteps stopped completely. A tall man stood in the doorway and froze. He had sharp cold eyes that I recognized. He had perfectly pressed clothes that I recognized. He had a face I saw every single morning. For 3 long and difficult years I saw it. The face of the man who fired me. Ryan. Thomas's son was Ryan. My old boss was Thomas's only son. We stared at each other across the warm room. Neither of us moved or spoke or breathed. Thomas looked between us with confused and worried eyes. "Do you two know each other?" he asked slowly. Ryan opened his mouth and closed it again. I held my wine glass very steadily. Then I spoke in a calm and clear voice. "Yes," I said quietly and with perfect composure. "Ryan and I have met before," I said. Ryan looked like a man standing on thin ice. His confident face was completely and utterly gone. He looked younger and smaller in his father's house. He looked like a boy, not a boss. Thomas looked at his son with questioning eyes. Ryan cleared his throat uncomfortably and spoke carefully. "Elena used to work at my company, Dad. She was on my team for some time." Thomas nodded slowly and looked at me kindly. "Well," he said with his warm and easy smile. "Then you two already have something in common." He said it so simply and so warmly. Like it was easy and it was fine. Dinner was interesting in a very quiet way. Ryan was careful and polite and very uncomfortable. He passed me things before I asked for them. He agreed with things I said at the table. He laughed a little too quickly at my words. I was calm and easy and perfectly comfortable. Because I had nothing to be ashamed of. I had done nothing wrong to anyone there. After dinner, Thomas and I washed dishes together. Ryan sat at the table with his wine. He was very quiet and looking at his hands. Then Thomas went to answer his phone outside. Ryan and I were alone in the warm kitchen. The sound of dishes and quiet between us. Then Ryan spoke in a low and honest voice. "Elena, I owe you a real apology," he said. "I let you go and it was not fair. Your project was actually very good," he admitted slowly. "I was under pressure and I made a bad decision. I thought about you after that day," he said. "I wondered if I had done the right thing." He looked up at me with uncomfortable, honest eyes. I held my dishcloth and looked back at him. I said, "Thank you for saying that, Ryan. That took courage and I respect that." He nodded and looked back at his hands. That night Thomas walked me to my taxi again. He held my hand on the front doorstep. He asked if the evening was okay for me. I looked up at his kind and honest face. It was more than okay, I told him truthfully. He smiled and kissed my hand very gently. 6 months later Thomas asked me to marry him. He asked me on the same old bridge, where we stopped walking that very first night. He had one white flower in his hand again. Just like our very first dinner date together. I said yes before he finished the sentence. Our wedding was small and warm and beautiful. Sarah cried from the very first moment, obviously. My mother held my hand during the ceremony. Thomas looked at me like I was everything. Ryan stood beside his father as best man. He shook my hand after and called me Elena. Then he paused and smiled a small real smile. "I suppose I should call you something else now." I laughed and shook my head at him gently. "Elena is perfectly fine," I told him warmly. He nodded and something relaxed in his whole face. Something that had been tight for a long time. "My name is Elena. I am 27 years old. 3 years ago I made coffee for a man. That man fired me on a cold Monday morning. Today that same man calls me his stepmother. Life is full of the most unexpected beautiful turns. I lost a job I worked so hard for. I found a man who sees me completely. I lost a boss who never once noticed me. I found a family that always will. And every morning when Thomas makes me coffee. And every morning when he kisses my cheek. I think about that cold Monday on the bench. I think about the box with my small plant. I think about walking out into the cold air. And I am grateful for every single bit of it. Because losing everything led me to this morning. And this morning is more than I ever imagined.